My lords, it brings me great joy to announce Stellaris Season 10. The Season Pass will contain 4 DLCs and a Season Pass portrait, Vipra the Vapor. If you wish to pre-order the Season Pass, there is an affiliate link in the description and the pinned comment, and I would be very grateful if you used it. But let's get into it. The 2026 roadmap reads as follows. We will get Nomads in Q2, then the 4.5 Cygnus Custodian balance patch, which will be followed by Willpower in Q4, and Scenarios, which is released across 2 packs, also in Q4. The first thing for us to address is the 10th year Stellaris anniversary. As part of that celebration, I'd like to remind you that the developers are rolling Utopia, Synthetic Dawn, and the Humanoid Species pack into the base game. This will happen on the 11th of May, so if you haven't purchased those DLCs yet, and you can wait a couple of weeks, I'd wait and save yourself the money. Following this, Nomads will launch in Q2. It's currently undated, but we are told it will launch in Q2 alongside Pegasus patch 4.4, meaning we should expect it before the end of June. But of course, what will Nomads bring us? Well, the tagline is Build no borders, claim no worlds. The galaxy is not a trophy to be seized, but a path to be taken. In Stellaris Nomads, you will survive the void by staying in motion. While the great powers squabble over lines on the map, your civilization has realized a fundamental truth. Life flourishes on the move. Nomad gameplay will be centered around the Ark ship. At the very center of every nomadic civilization lies the Ark ship, a fully mobile capital that replaces worlds entirely. You will customize military, scientific, or civilian Ark ships with specialized modules, districts, and upgrades as your empire evolves by traveling through the stars. Is anyone getting Quarian vibes? I can already see the stories that will come out of this. We could mirror the Quarians and the Geth. Machine rises up, forces organic empire to flee. They become this nomadic empire, now drifting across the stars, perhaps evolving into it. Central to Nomads will also be waylines and contracts. You will chart waylines across the stars, linking your waystations into living networks of trade, influence, and opportunity. Your strength will lie in motion, presence, and the relationships that you build from system to system. Your relationships with settled empires don't have to be antagonistic. You can accept contracts, build relations, and perhaps profit a little bit on the side. Now, we don't have a huge amount of information about what these waystations and waylines are. It seems to me that they're a little bit like trade networks that we'll set up, and then I assume, sort of in the way that the caravanners operate, I imagine it will be a little bit like that. We'll move into a system and the empire of the system that we're in will say, oh, we need this, can you help us out? Or perhaps, we don't like you, get out, kind of vibes. We'll see. We don't have a huge amount of information at this point, but I'm sure we'll learn more over the coming weeks. There is going to be a new ambition, Defender of the Galaxy, and this has me so excited. Building upon the crisis paths of previous releases, ambitions are the next step of epic empire-defining journeys that will give you the choice of your ultimate role in the galaxy. In the Nomads expansion, we will transform the Defender of the Galaxy Ascension perk into a full path that can rival the power of a galactic nemesis, Awakened Empire, or End Game Crisis. Interesting that they say galactic nemesis and not Cosmogenesis or Behemoth or Hypothermia. Nemesis is still clearly the quintessential crisis path. In any case, if you take Defender of the Galaxy, you will become the galactic champion by forging alliances, commanding federations, and rising through the Galcom to assume custodianship. You will lead the fight against the existential threats. With a unique squadron of hero ships, ultimate power can be used, relinquished for the greater good. Hero ships? What am I reading? Hero ships? Oh, we are in a whole new game. The galaxy is going to change. So the vibe I get from hero ships is essentially, if you remember when you play as the Behemoth, you get access to special powers like the thermoclastic roar. Now this is very much a hero type vibe. If anyone played Warcraft 3, where you have a champion with 4 powers, as well as you can control footmen and peons and all the other things, it's a bit like Age of Empires, but you get one unit with special powers essentially, making them really strong, and you can use these special powers as and when you like. That is what I'm assuming hero ships is. This is going to be game changing. No longer will you just be able to select a fleet of ships and send them to battle. I assume we're going to have to somewhat micromanage the individual battles that the hero ships are in, particularly if they're close, because you're going to need to be able to use these special powers to win the fight. This is going to be game changing. And also, what this does, I assume, is it opens up a sort of different avenue in terms of developing a hero ship, because certainly if we hark back to Warcraft 3 with the campaigns, the heroes were all main characters, like Arthur's, for example, and Arthur's had a personality, and etc, etc. I wonder if these hero ships are going to be sort of like Paragon-like figures. I wonder how they're going to implement that. This is wild. Further to this, Nomads will contain, so we've got a big list of all the stuff that will be in Nomads. So we have the bulk of it, the Ark ships, that's fine. We get a little bit more information about them. So military class will be a mobile flagship designed to project power. So I'm assuming a big warship. Scientific class, a roaming laboratory dedicated to the discovery of the galaxy's secrets. So this raises an interesting question. Will Nomads have access to science ships? Will a science ship sort of be like a detachment that you send off from the main convoy and it goes out and explores? Will they get access to construction ships? Will they be able to build megastructures? I guess not, because they don't have any systems to put them in. Could you tow a Dyson swarm behind your vessel? Maybe. The final class is Civilian class, which is an industrial hub capable of unparalleled resource production. So the vibes I'm getting from this is you have science, which is clearly like a tech building, I guess. Civilian, which is going to be industrial buildings. I wonder how they get minerals and energy and food and what have you. I mean, I guess you could grow food aboard the ship. You could use hydroponics. But how do they get minerals? Do they mine systems as they go through them? And then that feeds the alloy production? The economy here is going to be really, really interesting, isn't it? Really, really interesting indeed. They also have the Wayline network, which we touched on this slightly. It says that you trail through the void. By constructing way stations, you create waylines, lasting interstellar trade routes that harvest resources you can claim with a simple pass-through. Okay, so I guess they drop waylines, and then that is how they harvest their resources. It goes on to say, these routes benefit both you and settled empires, making you the pivot point of mercantile possibilities within the galaxy. So that's a really interesting point. If I drop a wayline in another empire's systems, do I siphon some of their resources to me, or do we share them equally? Do we both get 100%? How does that work? Because you as the settled empire, you're going to be quite upset if some traveling nomad comes along and steals all your stuff. You're going to want to destroy them, right? If you can. We'll also get the contract system, which will enable us to perform task-driven interactions with other empires to earn favour, resource and influence. And as a settled empire, we can issue these contracts and get things done. So this, I guess, is going to be things like maybe raid that empire. If it's a military-focused thing, we already have that. Maybe it's going to be complete special projects, I'm not sure, but there's quite a lot of different options available. Further to this, we will get new origins, the Voidfarers. This is the standard origin for nomadic empires. It's a flexible, streamlined start for you to define your own nomadic journey. Wow, okay, the next one sounds awesome. Heirs of the Khan. Play as the successor of a murdered Khan as you evade a marauder hit squad through trickery and bribery until you are strong enough to reclaim your throne. Ooh, that sounds glorious, not only in narrative but in gameplay as well. That sounds absolutely fantastic. We also have the Sacred Path. Guide a fleet of pilgrims towards ancestral holy sites in a galactic pilgrimage. Your journey is a spiritual odyssey fueled by faith. I have high hopes for that one. Please give us some good lore with that one. That could be so good. Oh, I'm quivering with anticipation at the Sacred Path. Oh, that's a big Halo reference, isn't it? Oh no, Sacred Journey is the Halo reference. The Great Journey, sorry, is the Halo reference. And then the final one is Forever Cruise. Manage a society split between pampered elite, demanding new entertainment and sightseeing opportunities from their Vista lounges, and an overworked crew keeping the dream afloat. Well, that's got Snowpiercer written all over it, hasn't it? That could be really interesting, especially tied with the potential internal politics that may or may not be coming later. Oh, very interesting indeed. Nomadic empires will support many existing origins as well. Okay, well that's cool. So I guess you could potentially be a prosperous unification empire and a nomad. We'll see how that works. We've discussed the Defender of the Galaxy already, although it does say here when a galactic nemesis threatens the galaxy will rise to try and save it. Very interesting, it only says Galactic Nemesis and not Cosmogenesis or Hypothermia or Behemoth Fury. I wonder if that's just an oversight in how it's worded, because believe me, Behemoth is just as much of a threat, if not more, than Nemesis. But hang on. New megastructure, the Stellar Cannon. What? Why simply power a civilization when you could fire at one? What? This megastructure allows you to weaponize your entire energy stockpile, discharging it into a devastating beam capable of striking enemies from across the galaxy. Oh, that sounds wildly fun. So we can blow up planets from across star systems? Oh, they are cooking with this. That's so cool. Weaponize your entire energy stockpile. So I wonder if it becomes more powerful the more energy that you have. If you were a Cosmogenesis Empire, you can easily get into the millions of energy. I wonder if you can decimate more than one system at once. I'm thinking sort of quantum catapult. You know how the reticle gets larger the further away you go? Maybe it works like that with energy. So for example, if you have 1,000 energy, it's just one system. If you have 100,000 energy, it's 5 systems. And if you have 1,000,000 energy, it's a quarter of the galaxy just gets absolutely obliterated. Oh, that's so cool. I'm very excited for that. We also have a new enclave called the Champions Forge Live. Experience the galaxy's most extreme spectacles with this nomadic enclave. Answer the call to participate in a gladiatorial fleet combat across the galaxy. The winner gets to hold the trophy and glory until the next tournament, with the losers looking on in envy. So it sounds like we get a relic out of this. If we win the combat, you get a relic that you can hold until the next tournament. Oh, that sounds awesome. Nomads is looking really good. Some of these, I'm super excited about this. We get the Wanderlust Ascension perk, but we've got absolutely no information about that. It says we'll get some new paragons, civics traditions as you would expect, and music. Wow. If we summarize that briefly, the Nomad origin could be really exciting. Certainly some of those specific origins, the Sacred Path one in particular, and the Heirs of the Khan, really stand out to me. I think they could be really fun, fantastic origins. They could tell some really good narrative stories potentially as well. To be fair, so could Forever Cruise. I mean, that's got a good story written all over it. How do you deal with that sort of internal rebellion against the elite? But the Stellar Cannon and the Defender of the Galaxy rework, this is looking really, really good. Okay, let's move on. Changes from Season 9. So the developers tell us, based on the feedback from Stellaris Season 9, they're making some changes to their expansion pass plans for this year. As many of us have noticed, myself included, I've been champing at the bit, they're announcing this season pass much later than previous years. I think if memory serves, we got it back in March, maybe, last year. They're also, instead of 4 separate releases, so that's the Nomads, Willpower, and the 2 scenario packs, planning on bundling them together in fewer releases. This frees up room for the 4.5 Cygnus update to be a dedicated custodian release, giving us 2 in 2026. So that's really good news as well, that they've got a dedicated 4.5 balance patch that's coming post Nomads. So I guess if anything releases in Nomads that is incredibly broken and needs fixing, and I don't necessarily mean bugs, I mean balance as well, they're going to have that patch straight afterwards, which will take care of that. And maybe that will address some of the current things as well that need looking at. I think that's a reasonable approach to doing this, really. And it also means if we're not getting the remaining DLCs till Q4, effectively, depending on when Nomads comes out, they've got from sort of middle of June, because you assume Nomads is completed, or more or less completed by now, they've got middle of June all the way through to October to just do balance updates and quality of life fixes and so on and so forth. I think that's really positive. And further to that, you would then expect another sort of custodian patch or balance patch in January or February of 2027, which will be post this Willpower and Scenario DLCs. So I think that works out quite nicely. We know that Vipra the Vapor, who is the species portrait that we get with Season 10, so this is the equivalent to the Rick the Cube portrait, and I can't remember its official name, I called it Steve the Starfish. That's the equivalent that we'll get this year. It looks pretty cool. It's no Rick the Cube, but Rick the Cube was really awesome, wasn't it? So it's tough to beat. Diary does say that the portrait features 5 different colour variations and ethereal custom animations. That's cool. I wonder if it'll be like Rick the Cube and it'll have some stuff happening. We'll see. Willpower is the second DLC, and this Is this internal politics? In any case, willpower. Shape minds rule the stars in the vast expanse of the cosmos. Borders are mere lines drawn on a map. Ideas, on the other hand, have no such limits. Your empire was founded on its ethics, the convictions that determined its course. Now is the time for those fundamental values to evolve into ideologies with the power to sway the stars. Introducing Stellaris Willpower, the expansion that will turn your societal beliefs into galactic force. Is this religion? Maybe this isn't politics, maybe this is religion. Your rule over systems was just the beginning. The galaxy's minds are the true prize. You can erect monuments and megastructures that demonstrate what your society and values can accomplish, and you can become the thought leader of the galaxy. Adopting an ideology is not without risks. It can radicalize colonies and spark insurrection, but when nurtured with care, the right ideology has the power to sway entire civilizations. Is this religion? Is this politics? I'm not sure. It reads very much like a religion system. I mean, I guess an ideology and a religion system is kind of equal, isn't it? Because religions are ideologies. But that's really interesting. I wonder what they're going to do with this. This is almost certainly going to be a mechanical focused expansion because they're going to have to introduce some sort of new system to combine the way that ideologies work with things like auras, for example. I wonder if it's going to be tied in with the shroud. So for example, if I am a patron of the composer, is that also then my ideology? And does that mean that we want to spread the love of the composer across the galaxy? I wonder if we have ideologies that are opposed to shroud gods. This is so wild. This could be so many different things, and we're not really given too much information on it, other than shape minds and rule the stars. This is really interesting for lots of reasons. It's also interesting because I wonder if it gives us sort of a different victory condition. It's something that I've seen people asking for before. My general take on victory conditions is that it's not really something to worry about because it's a bit arbitrary, is what I'm getting at. For example, I think victory year should be turned off. In any case, this ideology-focused expansion could give players a way to sort of win the game if they convert all other species or all other empires to their ideology, as opposed to just like a military type victory. You could make the argument, using Civ as an example, we already have the military victory, we have the science victory, which is kind of cosmogenesis. Is this going to introduce either the tourism or the religious victory? Very interesting indeed. I'm really hyped for that, but we're given so little, all you can really do is speculate. Perhaps the thing I am most excited for, and I do not say that lightly, I think Scenarios will change the way that Stellaris is played. This is coming in 2 packs. Scenario Pack 1 will release in Q4, and Scenario Pack 2 will also release in Q4, just not at the same time. We will embark on a new set of galactic challenges, experience curated high-stakes standalone adventures that push your strategic limits from a nomadic roguelike odyssey across the stars to a high-octane, combat-focused multiplayer experience. These scenarios will provide a bold way to play Stellaris. When they first announced that they were looking into scenarios, or it was on Eladrin's to-do list, I think this was pre-Season 9, I was so excited. As someone who grew up with Age of Empires and Warcraft 3, which I've already touched on today, the bulk of the way that we played those games as kids was scenarios. If you're pushing 40 like me, you'll remember things like Castle Wars, which was Age of Empires 2, and Soldier Store. They were completely different ways of playing Age of Empires, in a sense where you could have a game with your friends in under an hour, and it was super exciting, really fun, but it was still Age of Empires. Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne brought those in as well. That was where the original Defense of the Ancients, Dota, came from. It was from Warcraft 3. I mean, look, that became League of Legends and the Dota 2 that we know it to be today. But there was more. There were other different versions of Warcraft 3 Hero Wars, for example. There was all sorts you could do with it. I've always thought that Stellaris, particularly the multiplayer scene, would be better with scenarios like this, where you could just spin them up, play with strangers as well, over the course of 40 minutes and have a really good game. If anyone's familiar with Mr. Freak's Necroid mod, some of you may be if you're avid watchers of the channel, that, for me, is the perfect example of a really good scenario, because you have a preset system, you start with an advanced empire, you get to play the game, but it lasts sort of 2 hours, just under 2 hours, give or take, speed. If scenarios offer that kind of vibe, I think Stellaris is going to explode. I think it's going to become so popular. The other side of the coin with scenarios is the sort of single player campaign style Total War experience. So for anyone who's played the Total War games, the Rome games are the ones that I'm thinking of, where you, instead of controlling an empire on a map and building people and ships and so on and so forth, you're dropped into a battle and then you have to go and play out that battle, and it'll be a historic battle and whatever, you have to go and play it. And it will be much shorter. It might only be a half an hour experience. It might only be a 10-minute experience. But you get to play that battle, and there you go. And importantly as well, there's a challenging element to it because you only have so many troops and you can't make more and so on and so forth. Those are the two sides to a scenario coin that I see. I just think the possibilities are endless. They are endless, particularly if modders get on board. I don't quite know how this is going to work with mods, because my understanding is that you're not allowed to sell a mod. How this ties in with scenario packs, I'm not too sure. Clearly they're DLC, so they are selling scenarios as a DLC. Whether or not they'll get modders on board, maybe they'll do some sort of mod pack for free, which will be a scenario. I don't know. But this genuinely really has the chance to change the game. Yeah, this really has the potential to change the game. It really does. And it's so exciting that we're getting another way to explore and play Stellaris. On a personal perspective as well, the lore implications for scenarios are unheard of, because we can start playing out these historical stories that we know happened in our galaxy, and they can write more. They can write countless sort of linear stories. For example, play out the fall of the Cybrex. We can play out the fall of the First League or the fall of the Yacht. Lots of empires have fallen, haven't they? But we can play out the rise of Satana the first time, or becoming a fallen empire, or anything. We can play out so many different scenarios that will fill our galaxy with so much more lore and history, and make it and give it so much more depth than it currently has. I'm excited for Nomads. If my excitement for Nomads is a 7 or an 8, my excitement for scenarios is a 12 or a 13. I cannot overstate how excited I am for scenarios. Please be good. In any case, we are given examples, I think, of what we're going to get. And it's unclear to me if we are only getting these or if there's more coming. In any case, the first advertised is Vanguards. This is a single-player roguelike galaxy traversing a journey where you play as a nomadic empire traveling through a series of galaxies to cleanse evil, gathering spoils and experience on your way. Okay, gathering spoils and experience. If there is a system where we can level up our nomad ship, remember they're bringing in hero ships, I cannot contain my excitement. A single player roguelike Stellaris experience? Whew, okay. The second example we're given is a multiplayer experience with a streamlined custom economy focused on space battles and shipbuilding. So that to me sounds like a sort of deathmatch, like a preset deathmatch, but it's very vague. I imagine that we spawn in maybe with an advanced empire and we have lots of resource available so you can just build ships and fight. I'm not too sure, it's very vague. I will say that these are only $6 each, which feels quite cheap. So maybe we are only getting the 2 advertised? I mean, in any case, you'll get them with the season pass, but yeah, interesting. Scenario Pack 2, so this also comes in Q4, it's also $6. And this says to rewrite the rules of engagement. This scenario pack flips the script of how Stellaris is normally played, making you the threat and the aggressor. Whether leading an ultimate extra-dimensional invasion or battling your friends in a race for dominance, these scenarios offer a fresh, distilled way to play Stellaris. So the 2 that we're given is the Unbidden, where you'll play as the Crisis in a single-player experience and attempt to invade an advanced late-game galaxy as the Unbidden, and King of the Hill, which will be a multiplayer experience focused on a small but fair map to challenge your friends in a competitive experience as you try to dominate the galaxy in a few hours of intense expansion wars. Okay, the Unbidden one is interesting. I think the way that you make that fun is that it has to be challenging. If you play it and you just steamroll the galaxy, the first time you play it, well, you're never going to play it again. I think it has to have a really challenging mode to make that fun. And I'm not really sure if there's anything else to say about that. Clearly, not all the modes have to be. Clearly, it needs an easy mode as well. But my point is, the most difficulty on that particular one should be incredibly hard to keep the replayability there. If I play the hardest difficulty and I beat it in the first time I play it, I'm never going to play it again. King of the Hill is obviously a classic multiplayer setup. It'll be interesting to see what the multiplayer community makes of these. I know that a lot of the multiplayer, the competitive multiplayer, uses Montu's scoring mod. So it'll be really interesting how that works and whether or not they move to these more sort of cleansed experiences, I guess. Because what I also expect is with scenarios, it's going to remove a lot of the randomness when it comes to spawning and things like that, because they're set up to be a multiplayer experience. So one would assume that they're therefore set up to try to remove some of the randomness that can come across a multiplayer game. Interesting. So to summarize, we're getting Nomads, Willpower, which ideology, religion, politics, who knows exactly what that is, and 2 scenario packs. You can order Season 10 Expansion Pass with the link in the description or the pinned comment for $49.49, which gives you a 20% discount compared to if you purchase the contents individually, which seems pretty reasonable. So if you buy the Season Pass, you're essentially getting the 2 scenario packs for free, because Nomads and Willpower are both $25 each. So you're getting a discount plus the scenario packs for free, which, if memory serves, is more or less the way it worked for Season 8 and Season 9 as well. My lords, as ever, I await your comments with bated breath. How do you feel about this? Are you happy? Are you annoyed? Is there anything that you wanted to see that perhaps you haven't seen? The only thing I can think of that I was sort of hoping for would have been a Fallen Empire or a War rework, but we may get that with the Custodians, so who knows? Thanks for watching, and please remember, if you do want to purchase the Season Pass, use my link and I will be eternally grateful for your support.